Ask any British pensioner how they get a full Sunday dinner on the table without breaking a sweat, and they'll look at you like you've asked something daft. Because while the rest of us watch hour-long cooking videos and buy gadgets we use once, the older generation quietly perfected the art of doing more with less. They learned it in tiny kitchens with one ring working and a temperamental grill, where wasting time was as bad as wasting food. Number 14 on this list saves 20 minutes every single morning, and you've almost certainly never tried it. And number 3 turns the cheapest cut in the shop into something a restaurant would charge a tenner for. Hit subscribe, because these 25 lazy tricks might just change how you cook forever. Let's count them down. Number 25, the kettle head start. Long before anyone owned a fancy multi-cooker, your nan worked out that the fastest pan of water in the house was already bolted to the kitchen wall. The kettle. When she wanted boiled potatoes for tea, she never stood waiting for a cold pan to come up on the hob. She filled the kettle, flicked it on, and by the time she'd peeled the spuds, the water was screaming. Tip it straight into the pan, and you've shaved a good 10 minutes off the job. The same goes for pasta, rice, and blanching a handful of greens. It costs nothing, it uses less electricity than heating a heavy pan from cold, and it means the gas is only burning while it's actually doing something. A whole generation cooked this way without thinking twice. We forgot it the moment we started filling pans straight from the cold tap and wondering why tea took forever. Number 24. Grating frozen butter. Rubbing cold butter into flour for pastry or crumble is the fiddly bit nobody enjoys. Your fingers go greasy, the butter softens too fast, and you end up with a claggy mess. Pensioners had a shortcut so simple it feels like cheating. Keep a block of butter in the freezer, and when you need crumble topping, grate it straight onto the flour on the coarse side of the box grater. Those little frozen shreds drop in already half the work done. A quick toss with your fingertips and you've got a perfect breadcrumb texture in under a minute. Cold butter makes the flakiest pastry and the crispest crumble. And frozen butter stays cold right up to the second it hits the oven. A block of butter cost pennies. And this one trick turned the dreaded bit of baking into something a tired pair of hands could do standing up. Number 23. The bread thickener. When a stew or a soup came out thin and watery, your gran didn't go hunting for corn flour and start making a slurry in a cup. She tore a slice of bread, crumbled it straight into the pot, and let it melt away. Within 5 minutes, that bread had dissolved into the liquid, thickening it and adding a soft, rounded body that corn flour never quite manages. Stale bread worked best, which suited her down to the ground, because nothing in that kitchen ever got thrown away. The starch did exactly what a packet thickener does, only it was already sitting in the bread bin costing nothing. A loaf was a few pence, and the heel nobody wanted became the secret to a proper, clinging gravy. It's the kind of trick that looks like magic and is really just somebody who refused to waste a single crumb. Number 22. Scissors instead of a knife. Watch a younger cook chop bacon, and they'll get a bored out, dirty a knife and spend 2 minutes on it. Watch a pensioner, and they'll hold the rasher over the pan and snip it straight in with the kitchen scissors. Same with herbs, spring onions, tinned tomatoes still in the can, and the rind off a chop. Snip, snip, done, and there's nothing extra to wash up. A decent pair of kitchen scissors lived in the drawer of every older kitchen, and they did half the jobs a knife is supposed to do, faster and with less mess. No board sliding about, no chasing a spring onion across the worktop. It's lazy in the very best sense. Less effort, less clearing up, and the meal hits the pan quicker. We bought knife blocks the size of small wardrobes and forgot the most useful blade in the house has 2 handles. Number 21. The microwave jacket potato finish. A proper jacket potato with crisp skin takes well over an hour in the oven, and most of us can't be bothered to wait. The older generation cracked this years ago. Prick the potato, give it 5 or 6 minutes in the microwave until it's almost soft, then 10 minutes in a hot oven to crisp the skin. You get the fluffy inside in a fraction of the time, and the oven does just enough to give you that proper crackly jacket nobody gets from the microwave alone. The trick is not to fully cook it in the oven, only to finish it. A baking potato costs next to nothing and feeds you for a whole lunch with a bit of cheese and beans. Pensioners weren't precious about using 2 appliances if it meant their dinner was ready before the news finished. Number 20. Mug measurements. Kitchen scales were for proper baking. For everything else, your nan measured in mugs, and she never got it wrong. 1 mug of rice to 2 mugs of water. 1 mug of this, half a mug of that. She knew her mug held a certain amount, and she'd known it for 40 years. No fishing the scales out of the cupboard, no weighing bowl to wash, no batteries gone flat at the worst moment. Just scoop and pour. The genius of it is consistency. Use the same mug every time, and your portions are always the same, your rice always cooks right, and there's nothing to clean. It's the lazy cook's measuring system, and it's been feeding British families for generations. We spent money on digital scales and fancy cups, and they sit in a drawer while we still reach for a mug when nobody's looking. Number 19. Tinned soup as a sauce. Here's where the pattern breaks a little. Why stand over a pan making a white sauce from scratch when a tin of condensed soup does the same job in 2 minutes? Cream of chicken poured over chicken and a splash of milk, baked in the oven, becomes a perfect creamy bake with no lumps and no fuss. Cream of mushroom does the same for a fish pie. Your gran wasn't ashamed of this for 1 second because she knew a flour and butter sauce takes attention she'd rather spend elsewhere. A tin cost a few pence and turned a pile of leftovers into a proper supper. It's the trick younger cooks turn their noses up at, right before they spend half an hour and 3 pans making a sauce that splits anyway. Lazy doesn't mean worse. Sometimes lazy is just somebody who's done it the hard way enough times to know better. Number 18. The damp tea towel rescue. Day-old bread rolls go hard as bullets, and most people bin them. Your nan brought them back to life in 5 minutes flat. She'd wet a clean tea towel, wring it almost dry, wrap the rolls inside it, and pop them in a low oven. The steam from the towel soaked back into the bread, and out they came soft and fresh, smelling like they'd just left the bakery. The same works in the microwave for 10 seconds with a damp piece of kitchen roll over the top. A loaf was too dear to waste, and this little trick meant yesterday's bread never went in the bin. It feels almost too simple to be true, but steam is the whole secret of fresh bread, and a damp cloth is the easiest way in the world to put it back. Number 17. Frozen toast. This one stops people in their tracks, but every pensioner who lived alone swears by it. Bread freezes beautifully, and you can toast it straight from frozen without defrosting it first. Slip the frozen slice into the toaster, give it a little longer than usual, and it comes out perfect. No mold creeping across a loaf you couldn't finish, no stale crusts, no waste. For anyone cooking for one, this is the trick that keeps a loaf going for weeks instead of days. You take exactly what you need, and the rest stays in the freezer, fresh as the day you bought it. Older folk who'd seen rationing couldn't bear to watch food spoil, and freezing the loaf meant every single slice got eaten. We buy bread, watch it go off, buy more, and never think to do the one thing that would stop the cycle. Number 16. The grill pan batch. When the toaster only does 2 slices and there's a whole family to feed, the grill is your friend. Pensioners lined the grill pan, laid out 6 or 8 slices of bread at once, and toasted the lot in one go under the grill, turning them once. The same pan did rounds of cheese on toast, crumpets, and the breakfast bacon, all without dirtying a single extra thing. Lining it with foil meant the washing up was a ball of foil in the bin and nothing else. It's the original batch cooking, done with the one bit of kit every kitchen already had. Quicker than feeding slices through a toaster 2 at a time, and the grill gets the bread evenly golden rather than burnt at the edges. Once you've made toast for a tableful under the grill, the toaster starts to feel like the slow option it actually is. Number 15. One pan, one tray, one wash. Long before anybody called it a tray bake, your nan was throwing sausages, halved potatoes, onions, and a handful of veg onto a single roasting tin, drizzling a bit of fat over the top and shoving the lot in the oven. 40 minutes later it was dinner, and there was exactly 1 tin to wash. No hob to stand over, no 3 pans on the go, no juggling timings. The oven did all the work while she sat down with a cup of tea. The cleverness is in the timing. The things that take longest going in first, the quick veg added near the end. It stretched a few sausages and some odds and ends into a full meal with barely any effort. We rediscovered tray bakes as if they were new, slapped a fancy name on them, and forgot our grandparents had been doing it for 50 years to save themselves the washing up. Number 14. The overnight oats trick, the old way. Here's the morning saver. Porridge oats left to soak overnight in milk or water cook in half the time and turn out creamier than oats thrown into a cold pan from dry. Your gran would put the oats and liquid in the pan before bed, leave it on the side, and in the morning a couple of minutes on the hob or 2 in the microwave gave her a proper bowl of porridge while the kettle boiled. The soaking softens the oats so they barely need cooking, and you get that smooth, thick texture without standing and stirring forever. It saves a good 10 or 15 minutes every single morning, which adds up to hours over a week. Cheaper than any sachet of instant, and far better. A bag of oats fed a household for next to nothing, and this was how the early risers got fed without fuss. Number 13. Gravy from the granules, done properly. No shame here, and your nan had none either. Instant gravy granules are a perfectly good lazy shortcut, but the older generation knew the trick to make them taste homemade. They never just poured boiling water on. They'd save the juices from whatever they'd roasted, tip the granules into the hot tin, scrape up all the sticky brown bits stuck to the bottom, and let the real meat juices do the heavy lifting. Suddenly, that packet gravy tasted like it had simmered for hours. The granules brought the thickness and the speed, the tin brought the flavor, and the whole thing took 2 minutes. It's the difference between gravy that tastes of a packet and gravy nobody can tell apart from the proper stuff. Lazy on the surface, clever underneath, and ready before the meat had finished resting. Number 12. Leftover roast into a second dinner. A Sunday joint never ended on Sunday. The pattern breaks again here, because this wasn't one trick, but a whole way of thinking. Monday's cold meat went into sandwiches, Tuesday's scraps went into a pie or a hash with the leftover veg, and the bone went into a pot for soup. Your gran got 3 or 4 meals out of one joint, and the second meals were the lazy ones because the meat was already cooked. A bubble and squeak from Sunday's potatoes and cabbage, fried up in one pan, was tea sorted in 10 minutes. She wasn't being mean, she was being smart. One bit of effort on Sunday bought her a week of quick dinners. We buy a chicken, eat it once, and bin the carcass, throwing away 2 more meals without a second thought. The pensioner who lived through hard times would be horrified at the waste. Number 11. The slow cooker, set and forget. For anyone who couldn't stand over a stove, the slow cooker was a gift. Your nan would brown a cheap cut of beef, chuck in onions, carrots, a stock cube and some water, switch it on in the morning, and walk away. By tea time, the house smelled incredible, and the toughest, cheapest meat had gone meltingly tender all on its own. No watching, no stirring, no checking. The slow cooker turned the bottom shelf of the butcher's into Sunday quality dinners for pennies. The laziness is the whole point. You do 5 minutes of work, and the machine does 8 hours. Older folk loved it because it suited a slower pace and a tight budget, and the cheapest cuts are exactly the ones that need long, gentle cooking. We chase quick recipes and pay a premium for tender meat, when the lazy answer was to buy the cheap stuff and let the pot do the work, while we got on with our day. Number 10. Bicarb to soften and speed up. Dried beans and tough old vegetables used to take an age to cook. Your gran kept a tub of bicarbonate of soda by the cooker and used a pinch to speed things along. A small amount in the water with dried pulses softened the skins and cut the cooking time down dramatically. The same pinch in the water with tough greens kept them bright and tender. You had to go easy, because too much turned everything to mush, but a careful little dusting was a real time saver. Bicarb cost almost nothing and lasted for years in the back of the cupboard. It's chemistry the older generation used by instinct, softening what was hard and shaving precious minutes off the pot. We pay extra for quick cook everything when a tub of bicarb that costs less than a packet of crisps would do half the job. Number 9. The portion control freezer. Cooking for one or two is where waste creeps in, and pensioners had it sorted. Whenever your nan made a stew, a curry, a bolognese or a soup, she made a big batch and froze it in single portions, often in old margarine tubs and yogurt pots she'd saved. Then, on a tired evening, a tub came out, into the pan or microwave, and dinner was ready in minutes with zero effort. One afternoon of cooking filled the freezer with a fortnight of ready meals, all homemade, all cheaper than anything off the shop shelf. The laziness is brilliant. You do the work once when you've got the energy and reap it on every night you haven't. It's batch cooking before anyone called it that. We buy expensive ready meals full of who knows what, while the freezer that could hold a month of proper dinners sits half empty. Number 8. Frozen veg, straight in, no fuss. There's a snobbery about frozen vegetables that your gran never had. She knew frozen peas, beans and mixed veg were picked and frozen at their best, lasted for months, and went from freezer to pan in minutes, with no washing, no peeling and no chopping. A handful tipped straight into a stew, a curry or a pan of boiling water, and the veg was done. Nothing went off in the bottom of the fridge, nothing got wasted, and there was barely any preparation at all. For a quick, healthy dinner with the least possible effort, frozen veg can't be beaten. The older generation used it without a hint of guilt, because they understood that convenience and good food aren't enemies. We pay more for fresh veg, watch half of it wilt, and forget that the freezer drawer is the laziest, cheapest greengrocer there is. Number 7. The stock cube in everything. A stock cube was the older cook's secret weapon, and they used it everywhere. Thin gravy needed depth. In went half a crumbled cube. A watery soup needed lifting. A cube sorted it. Plain rice tasted of nothing, so it was cooked in stock instead of water. The concentrated savory flavor did in seconds what proper stock takes hours to build, and a box of cubes cost a few pence and lasted months. The trick your nan knew was to dissolve it in a splash of hot water first, never crumble it in dry, so you never got a gritty, undissolved lump. One little cube turned cheap, plain ingredients into something with real flavor, and it asked almost nothing of the cook. It's the laziest flavor boost going, and it's been quietly rescuing British dinners for the best part of a century. Number 6. Tinned and ready, the smart store cupboard. Pattern break, and a confession the food companies would rather you didn't hear. A well-stocked cupboard of tins meant your nan could make a meal out of thin air on the worst day. A tin of beans, a tin of tomatoes, a tin of tuna, a packet of pasta, and dinner appeared with no shopping and no planning. Beans on toast, a tuna pasta bake, a quick tomato sauce, all from things that sat in the cupboard for a year waiting to be useful. The laziness is in the planning. Do it once when you shop and you're never stuck. Tinned food was cheap, it kept forever, and it turned an empty fridge into a non-problem. Older folk who'd known shortages always kept the cupboard ready. We do a panicked dash to the shop for one missing ingredient, when the lazy, sensible answer was always sitting in the cupboard if we'd only stocked it right. Number 5. The lid-on shortcut. This is the simplest one on the list, and it saves time and money every single day. Put a lid on the pan. Water boils faster with a lid on because the heat can't escape, sometimes nearly twice as fast, and it uses less gas or electric to get there. Your nan never boiled a pan of anything without slapping the lid on first, then turning the heat right down once it was bubbling, because a gentle simmer cooks just as well as a furious boil and uses a fraction of the energy. It's so obvious it's almost embarrassing, and yet half of us stand watching an uncovered pan, burning fuel and time for no reason. The older generation, who counted every penny on the meter, would no more leave a lid off than leave the front door open in winter. Lazy, free, and it works every time. Number 4. The raw potato salt fix. Every cook oversalts the soup eventually, and most people either tip it down the sink or drown it in water until it tastes of nothing. Your gran had a far better answer. She'd peel a raw potato, cut it into thick chunks, drop them into the too salty pot, and let it simmer for 10 or 15 minutes. The potato drew the excess salt out of the liquid, and once she fished the chunks out and binned them, the soup tasted balanced again, Not salty, not watered down, just right. It saved the meal and saved starting over from scratch, which on a busy evening is everything. This trick was passed around kitchen to kitchen for generations because it works, and because nobody could afford to throw a whole pot away. It's the rescue that turns a ruined dinner back into a good one, with a potato that cost next to nothing. Number 3. Cheap meat made tender, the lazy way. Here's the one that turns the cheapest cut in the shop into something special. The toughest, cheapest meat on the butcher's counter, the shin, the brisket, the scrag end, only needs one thing to become tender and rich. And that thing is time, not effort. Your nan would brown it off, drop it in a low oven or a slow pot with an onion, a stock cube and a drop of water, put the lid on, and forget about it for 3 or 4 hours. While it cooked itself, she did nothing at all. What came out was meat that fell apart at the touch of a fork, deep and savory, the kind of thing a restaurant charges a fortune for. The cheap cut is actually the better cut for this, because all that tough connective tissue melts into the gravy and makes it glorious. The expensive steak would be ruined by the same treatment. It's the laziest cooking there is, near enough no work, and it makes the cheapest meat in the shop taste like a treat. Number 2. The everything sandwich press, aka the oven. When the grandchildren came round wanting toasties and there wasn't a sandwich maker in sight, your nan made them in the oven, half a dozen at once. Buttered bread on the outside, filling in the middle, wrapped or pressed under a second tray, and into a hot oven until golden and melting. The same oven did a batch of cheese on toast, a tray of pizza-topped muffins, a row of warmed pasties. One appliance, already on, doing a job we now buy single-purpose gadgets for. The laziness is in not cluttering the kitchen with machines that only do one thing, when the oven does all of them and more. Older folk had small kitchens and no money for gadgets, so they made the oven earn its keep. We fill our cupboards with toasty makers and waffle irons and panini presses, use each one twice and shove them to the back, while the oven sits there capable of the lot. And finally, number 1, the proper cup of tea reset. It sounds like a joke, but every pensioner knows the truest kitchen trick of all. When a meal is going wrong, when the pan's caught, when you're flustered and the timing's gone to pot, you stop, you put the kettle on, and you make a cup of tea. Those 3 minutes of standing still, mug in hand, are when the lazy cook quietly takes back control. The stew can simmer itself. The oven keeps the dinner warm. Nothing actually needs you frantically hovering over it, and the tea is the permission to step away and let the cooking do its own work. This is the philosophy underneath every single trick on this list. The older generation worked out that good food doesn't need a frantic cook. It needs a calm one who set things up to look after themselves. The kettle goes on, the shoulders drop, and the dinner comes together while you sit down. That's not laziness. That's a lifetime of knowing exactly how little fuss a good meal really takes. So there they are, 25 lazy tricks the older generation used to master any meal in minutes. Try just one this week, the frozen toast, the kettle head start, the raw potato for salty soup, and tell me in the comments which one you'd never heard before. Because your nan knew. Now you do too.